become a good salesman. And another thing is that, see, initially you may see your friend and sell a product,
Yes.
but that is only the initial phase, Then to go on and meet other people whom you know or heard, or somebody introduced you to somebody else, and you go and talk to the person. Unless you know what that person is doing, you possibly will not do very well by selling. And that is one of the problems we have. Okay, that's why nowadays you find that internet selling has become very good. People go to the net, they look at what they want, and they buy them.
On the spot,
On
right?
the spot,
Without even
that's
having
it.
any face-to-face contacts
Exactly.
whatsoever.
It does happen, and this internet selling is very, very high. But what attracts people to go there is the advertisement that comes out of a net, and people see it. Okay, I like it.
You were mentioning earlier, like how insurance sales, for example, but for you to actually buy insurance sales off the internet, that's going to be a little bit tricky because insurance is a little bit more catered towards each and every person's individual
Not true.
needs, right?
Not true.
Okay.
Even
Please elaborate.
well, the thing is this: if you fill in the right requirement,
Right.
the computer can generate what's the best for you. Probably is much better than a face-to-face encounter.
Right.
It does. You can do that.
However,
nowadays.
ultimately, don't you like require an agent to take care of you if you
Okay.
were to?
Now you're talking different things.
Yeah.
already. Once you bought something, somebody need to service you.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, Alex. How many times have you bought a product or a service from the same person who sold you this product for the first time?
There's been situations. I mean, if my aunt or my uncle sells me something, I'm probably going to go back to them every time I see them. I'm going to think about the service that they provided me.
Because they're related to you.
Exactly.
But let's say you buy a car, example.
Right.
Will you buy a car from the same salesman twice?
Possibly if you gave me a good discount, I guess, or
Okay.
or if we hit it off or something like that, or along those lines.
Well, okay. See, if he gives you a discount, you might buy it.
Exactly.
But what happens if whatever he has offered you is the best? What would make you want to buy a second car from him?
I guess it's the service.
Exactly.
The service, yeah.
See, if he's a salesperson who sold you something, but he's able to offer you the service, even though you may not need him to service you, but he pays attention to you.
Right,
He calls
right.
you, talks to you, keeps you warm all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The chances are when you need a second car, or after a few years, 5 years later, if you needed a second car, you might say, listen, I want to buy a car. What do you recommend? Do you have anything that I
Exactly.
need? And this is what I need. And even if he's a good salesman, he'll say, listen, what you're looking for, I don't have, but let me introduce to you a friend
Right.
who can
The sincerity.
probably give-" Exactly. So that is what the second phase of selling.
Mm-hmm.
See, most salespeople do not look at the customers they have already sold to and ask themselves this question: hey, how many times I sold to this customer? Once or twice? Make a statistic, and you'll find out, to your horror, that very few people have bought from you the second time or the third time. Then you got to ask yourself, why not? You see, great salespeople sell the same product to the same people over and over and over again. And actually, if you look at their database of how much customers they have, you will find there's a limit that they can do. And they stick to that list.
It's like a repeated business kind
You
of
go over
cycle.
and over and over again. Even if you buy a house, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's very good to you sells your house or buy a house from him, but then he continued to service you, talk
Mm-hmm.
to you, hey, how are you, is the house okay with you, and so on and so on. You'll find that eventually, when you need a second home, as an example, or you have married and got children and all that, on a bigger home, you'll go back to the same person.
Even better still if he's still in the same business
Exactly.
as he was in before, because then you know that this guy's reliable.
Yeah, exactly.
This guy's
Exactly.
got the track record.
And most salespeople, they leave. They do a little bit of sales and they go away.
Right.
They move on.
They move on to something else because there is really no qualifications or anything required for a lot of sales positions. You have fresh graduates coming out and just picking up jobs and
But you see, Alex, also, all of us from the time we were born, the very minute our umbilical cord was cut, okay, then someone took us upside down, and then smack our back, and suddenly we started to cry.
that's right.
And then we realized that when that happened, the sound came out, and there were people holding you and hugging you. We knew, if I cry loud enough,
You get a
people come.
response.
Yeah, you get a response. And then as a kid growing up, you learn the psychology of your mother and all that. You know how to make noise, so the attraction. And you become a salesman already.
Already
from
from
day
the-
one.
from day one.
Day one.
I'm going to hold you in that thought, Dr. Venga. We're going to come back and talk more about sales when it comes to time management. And we're going to go into the top 5 news in the meantime.
Time is life. Therefore, waste your time and waste your life. Or master your time and master your life. Hi, this is Dr. Venga. Listen to my show on time management every Sunday at 8:15 p.m. and on Monday at 9:15 p.m. right here only on Bernama Radio 24.
Welcome back to the lounge. It's exactly 33 minutes past 8 o'clock. Did you know that salespeople can actually improve sales by just managing their time? So if you are a salesperson or you know somebody who is into sales, we'll be talking about this right now with Dr. Venga, who is a seasoned veteran in the area of time management. So Dr. Venga, earlier before the news, we were talking a little bit about how, we start off from the birth, doing sales already. And you even mentioned this also in the beginning of the show. At 4 years old, you mentioned that you started doing sales already.
Absolutely. Okay. See, what happens is that as we grow, from a child we become an adult. By the time we are about 5-6 years old,
All right.
psychology is part of our problem. I mean, we learn it already. Psychology. We know how to ask your mother or father, and when to ask them. You know when not to ask them. You also know that. So you learn that psychology. So basically, all of us, as a human being, we learn human psychology when we are very, very young. Some of us then take it one step further, educate ourselves on psychology. As a salesperson, you become really expert in human psychology, finding out what are the weak areas of a person, what's the strong area of a person, what does like, dislike. And as a salesperson, if you have not learned that, you better quit your job and do something else. Become a plumber. Okay? So people buy things because of the fact that they like something or they need something.
Right.
Now, as a salesperson, if you lose that psychology of that person, you will not.
So
be
it's
able
like
to
the
sell.
process of being convincing, influencing others a little
Exactly.
bit,
Doing it over and over and over.
saying
again.
things that they like,
Exactly.
other people would like to
Absolutely.
hear, basically charming them.
Yes. Well, in a way, charming them, but at the same time, trying to show them what's good for them. I mean,
Right.
you see, without a salesperson, we wouldn't have come this far.
All right.
Okay.
Earlier we were talking a little bit about how, like when you're a kid or when you're a child and your parents are like, you would know what to do and say to them automatically. So if, for example, if your parents were to spoil you, would this mean that generally you're going to become less of a good salesperson
Yes.
because of that fact?
Yes, absolutely. Some of us grow where when we want something, we just ask and then we yell loud enough, we get it, okay?
Right.
But we have not learned that may not be the right way to do
Exactly.
it. And therefore, some people become good salespeople. Some people don't become salespeople. They try and give up. Today, you find a lot of graduates. They come out of the universities. They can't get a job. They take on a sales job.
Because you're selling yourself, if you think
Exactly.
about it, when you're going for an
One of
interview.
the things I learned very early in life is that people who know, let's say engineers, an example,
Mm-hmm.
I felt at a very young age, I discovered that you employ an engineer to talk to another engineer about a product. Why that particular product is good for his office or his whatever he's doing. Engineers talking to an engineer, they begin to talk the same language, and they find that, hey, actually what the fellow said was right. Because he's an engineer, he trusts. See, they build that trust because I'm an engineer, you're an engineer, we trust one another. So in the profession that I was in before, we employed medical doctors to talk to medical doctors. That's
right.
a amount of trust.
Okay.
See, I'm a doctor, you're a doctor. Why would you want to lie to me, okay? Because sales, the word selling has always been conning, Selling is conning.
Associated with conning,
yeah,
whereas it's
exactly.
not always true because
It's not true.
all it takes is a few con men to ruin the entire definition of
It
sales.
has happened before.
Yeah.
We're not a used car salesman. So what happens is that in this process, we begin to learn how to engage ourselves with the customer
Right.
and find out what the customer needs. Now, most salespeople make a simple mistake, like they don't keep a record of their customers. Now, suppose I see you for the first time. I record down your interest,
details.
whatever you speak to me, I
Right,
record down
right,
and make a
right.
record of it. Then when I come and see you a second time, I go back to the record card. Say, okay, he's talked about this, talked about that. Hey, what else can I add on? Then I ask myself, hey,